Welcome to the Infosys Healthcare and Life Sciences Perspectives, the podcast and video interview series with thought leaders.
Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of Perspectives, a thought leadership series with experts from healthcare and life sciences industry. I have here with me two of the leaders from industry with whom we'll be talking about the relevance of Oracle cloud opportunity, especially in healthcare. My name is Amit Shukla. I am part of the Infosys healthcare team, and I have here with me Mangesh. Mangesh is the head of office of technology and data management for CFO office at TIA Craft. And Mangesh has been leading many large opportunities for transforming ERP, specifically migrating these ERP platforms to cloud. Interestingly, I think Mangesh, your team actually recently won an award at TIA for the largest enterprise resource planning platform migration to cloud. Congratulations. And I have here with me Gopi. Gopi is the global head of Oracle and blockchain services at Infosys. And Gopi's if you ask him what his primary role is to really create client value through technology transformation, specifically through building an ecosystem of technology players and partnering with them. With this, let me just give a quick background about healthcare, specifically healthcare providers. Healthcare industry in US, it's one of the largest industry in US. If you really look at it, it's roughly about 16 to 70% of the GDP, and still growing at 5 to 6%. And if you look at, and it's a problem because it's a huge burden on the corporates, it's a huge burden on government, and that's why you see healthcare, pop up in most of the conversation, whether it's economic discussion or political discussions here in US. The other aspect of healthcare, specifically from provider market perspective, is when I say provider, it's the hospital system. Their costs have been increasing by at least 5 to 6% every year, but their reimbursement have been increasing by 2 to 3%. So it's a huge problem for them. And if you really break down the cost structure for healthcare providers, roughly 50 to 55% is clinical cost, and rest is between operational cost, significant debt restructuring cost, and supply chain cost. So I felt it's very relevant for us to talk about Oracle, because Oracle is one of the primary enterprise software in most of these hospitals on the supply chain side and also on the enterprise side. And with the recent introduction of OCI and cloud and the opportunity it creates for hospital, it's very relevant that we really talk about Oracle's opportunity and hospitals' opportunity for to leverage Oracle infrastructure to address their cost problems. So with this, let me take a moment and start with Mangesh. Mangesh, would you like to quickly introduce yourself before I jump into specific questions?
Sure, you've done a great job in introducing myself already, but my name is Mangesh Dev, and I've been with TIA, which is a financial services firm, for the last 20 odd years. And I lead the office of the CFO's technology function, and also I lead the data management function for all our corporate systems. So that's been my in a nutshell who I am.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Mangesh. In fact, healthcare industry, apart from being one of the largest industry, it's like financial services industry. Both these industries are heavily regulated, very heavily compliance centric. So, my first question to you would be, when you started really looking at being a pioneer in migrating your ERP platform in a financial industry which is highly regulated into cloud, what were the kind of skepticism you faced, and what did you do about them?
So yes, similar to healthcare industry, the financial services industry is very well regulated, and with the current days, if you look at not just regulation from industry specific, but overall the data privacy, securing highly confidential data, having to make sure that things like international policies from Europe, say GDPR, or something very domestic for us in the US like CCPA. So being prepared for this, as well as what is going to come along. So the standard things like what we have from the state insurance departments, or from, in case of healthcare, HIPAA policies, these are sort of table stakes. But over and above that, when you're taking your information beyond your firewalls, the importance of making sure it gets secure and you're able to keep up with this regulation. So it's not just being ready for what you know, but being prepped for what is coming in. So just, I can tell you one thing: when we did this whole OCI thing, or Oracle Cloud Infrastructure thing, and we've been live for 18 months. So it's been a while since we've done this, maybe just close to 18 months or 2 years back. But nonetheless, it's still relevant as we are seeing things emerge. We spent about, I'd say, 1.1 time, means about 7 months, for example, in terms of writing the contract, and then 6 months in executing it. So the fact is, we had to spend a lot of time making sure that the cloud services agreement written with the provider, in this case Oracle, covers every single thing. Most importantly, protects the information of us and our customers and our clients, who are the most important assets that we have here. So I think there was a lot of taking your books and records and taking your corporate accounting system outside to the public cloud was not looked upon as a small feat. It was certainly where we had to make sure that we are able to cover and make sure not just we are ready for the current regulations, but we're ready for what may come. We are making sure that our data is well encrypted and our data is well secured. So we end of the day wanted to make sure the asset is protected and the entitlements are managed correctly of who accesses it and when. So including the service providers, including the cloud providers and everything else. So I'd say that it's something which you have to keep an eye on, but nothing that cannot be done.
Yeah, I think very well articulated, Mangesh. In fact, you're absolutely right. When you start an engagement or transformation of this scale, you have to really keep an eye on the future changes also. And regulation is something, you can't really predict a lot upfront. But you're very well articulated, Mangesh, on this. So Gopi, let me switch over to you. You have been in this industry for 25 plus years. You have seen the technologies evolve. You have spent a lot of time in the Oracle practice at Infosys, and now these cloud providers are really disrupting the market in a big way. So, how do you see the cloud industry transform the overall business?
So this is thanks Amit, and thanks Mangesh for that beautiful introduction and perspective. So if you look at Oracle, and compared to the hyperscalers, Oracle has been a little bit different in terms of their approach. So Oracle, as all of us are aware, has been traditionally extremely strong in the area of ERP and databases, and probably one of the only stacks which is apps, which is infra, which has got databases, which has got next gen technologies as well as experience in a single ecosystem. So Oracle transformation has been through their modernizing their ERP landscape through the SaaS model, and of course by offering the cloud infrastructure to the state of art Gen 2 Exadata infrastructure, which delivers actually superior performance to the other hyperscalers in terms of performance, scalability, as well as in terms of cost. So, if you look at it, if you look at the recent announcement, you look at Zoom being a client for Oracle. Look at 8x8 or the latest conversations that is happening on TikTok. The Oracle Cloud infrastructure is actually scaling beyond the traditional Oracle ecosystem and moving and making inroads into the newer areas. And this is reflecting in terms of the announcements from Oracle itself in terms of the financials. For example, 130 plus percent year on year growth on OCI, and a 60 plus percent year on year growth on autonomous database. And that is something which is truly outstanding considering the situation of the COVID and the things like what we are going through today. But at Infosys, what we are focusing on, and we think this will be very relevant to all our customers, is three elements. First is, of course, the SaaS. So this is for customers who have traditionally been on-premise, on ERP suites, the eBiz applications, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, and so on and so forth. How do you do an entire business transformation for them into the cloud journey, into the SaaS applications. And this has to transform. It is not just a change in terms of their, or it's not an easy move. It requires a change in terms of the business transformation. It is as good as a new implementation. So that is the first element. And if you're ready for the transformation, if your infrastructure is ready, your business processes is changed, and you're ready for it, we are focusing on our customers to move. And these are the customers who already have an Oracle ERP landscape. The second part is there are a lot of customers who are not ready for that business transformation, but they want to take the entire benefits of the technology stack that OCI provides, the cloud advantages that an OCI provides. So we think that for those customers who have an ERP stack or other applications, we can do a lift and shift into OCI. And that gives a significant amount of benefit both in terms of cost and performance. And the last part, which is largely untouched upon in today's world, is there's a lot of legacy applications, disparate applications running in a lot of our customer sites, and most of them have significant estate of Oracle databases. So we have this thought process, and we have this success story where we could take these databases into a cloud at customer concept, and we call it DBaaS, database as a service. And this is one of the most relevant things that we can do in today's world, because we believe that if a customer is looking at digitization and modernization, it has to start from their infrastructure and database. And this is what we can do. We can actually take a DBaaS as an offering and bring it to the fore, move it into an Exadata cloud at customer, and create significant advantages in terms of cost, in terms of scalability, and in terms of superior performance for the customer. So these three, the SaaS, the lift and shift in OCI, and DBaaS, is what we are seeing as a significant momentum in the Oracle ecosystem towards an adoption of cloud.
Hey, thanks, Gopi. Very pertinent, Gopi. In fact, within healthcare industry also, we had seen, two different kinds of variations when it comes to cloud adoption in the industry. One are the set of clients who decided to build a new set of engagement technologies on the cloud. And the second one were the ones which you talked about, how can I actually figure out and migrate my core processing and core applications or core back office onto the cloud. The first one had to later on realize that they cannot really realize the value of some of these new engagements if their legacy is still sitting on premise. It's not really cloud enabled, and it cannot really integrate with some of these new channels of engagements that are coming up. So let me switch gear and ask Mangesh, because Mangesh, you started this journey earlier than a lot of other people in the industry, and that time, digitization, and more so COVID has accelerated and kind of made the business case a lot easier for everybody. But before pre-COVID, when people were doing it, what kind of strategies you built to kind of build the business case and sell it to your internal organization? You're part of the CFO organization, so I'm sure they were really very pencil sharp on what is the return on investment.
Yes, absolutely, Amit. Thanks for asking that. In fact, what you just mentioned about being post-COVID, there are articles, and I don't read any article about post-COVID which does not say, I wish we were cloud ready, or I wish we were in the cloud kind of thing. I mean, somewhere there was this, the digitization or the ability to use shared infrastructure or the ability to stay remote was being promoted. But to your point, COVID really made it sort of a do or die situation where you did it. And you found ways to be secure. You found ways to do it in the right way. And organizations across the globe, I should say, have made tremendous progress. And what we are seeing today is a testament to it. We are getting through it, and hopefully soon enough we'll all be back away from this never normal situation. So as far as the business case goes, coming back to your question, it wasn't the easiest thing to make the case. So a couple of things, right? One thing is, when you are in on-premise legacy situation, the way you manage and compile your total cost of ownership is very fragmented, meaning the allocations that happen for how you utilize your infrastructure is peanut butter spread. You don't know the exact cost. So if you go to the cloud, for example, you see a bill of material, so much compute, so much storage, so much, and if you have managed service, so much people. So the cost is well distributed. So that ability to see that is not there when you are in a capex mode. So when you move from capex to opex, you get that advantage. So we were able to, kind of present that advantage that we're going to get in. We did our best to figure out the cost of ownership and what it would do to us. So again, it is a sort of a thought that I go to the cloud and I'm going to start saving money, and it's all going to be great after that. That's not always the fact, and we have to be very clear about why we are going to the cloud. So there are 3 or 4 aspects of it. One is, if you think about availability, right? So your service level agreements with your own organization, your customers, you are able to get that improved significantly by getting into a much more large and managed infrastructure. Second thing is, I heard Gopi talk about the priority. I think should be SaaS, PaaS, IaaS. So I put DBaaS as part of the PaaS piece there because we have XRCS, for example, and I bucket it in the platform as a service piece. So that gives you that much standardization across your operations. Meaning, if you're into a business where there are M&As going on, you're able to bring that common standard practice of the industry so that the acquisition becomes that much faster, that much more easier, and the integration is that much more quicker for you to into that acquisition. Second thing is you're looking at your security, your ability to secure. You're being able to add that the risk factors come down. Second thing is I'm just going through some non-tangibles other than the cost of ownership. Then the other thing is what we can look at also is your time to market. So today, when you have your complete on-prem and you want to do a new product or you want to try something new, and if you want to get your systems that make up the entire life cycle of that new offering to spin off environments for you to test, is a nightmare. If I have to go and procure it, I have to get it ragged in, I have to get it stacked, I have to get it. It's like anywhere between 6 months, 8 months kind of from procure to operate. But in this case, you're able to spin up and spin down so easily that it makes it much more. So to be able to put all of these things in perspective, of course, 2 years back, it wasn't as clear. But today with COVID, I think some things are much more clear. So I'll urge anyone who's trying to create a business case, look at not just the tangible benefits. Surely cost is the biggest backdrop, without a doubt. But looking at the other things from how to get to your vision, how to quickly failing fast should also be failing cheap. You don't want to fail expensive. So you have to make sure that is your ability to use a shared infrastructure to do that and move that faster is that much more. So we were able to put all of that, and we certainly got great support from there is, other than cost, there are non-tangible benefits that need to be looked at for the business case, and the organizations have to look at more than because the cost benefit comes over time as you optimize and as you go along.
Yeah, very very relevant for Mangesh, for healthcare industry also. The healthcare industry, especially provider market, I compare them to more like large scale, manufacturing industry. They're very heavy asset industries, which means that in general they have a good 15% of their operating cost is servicing some of the debt. So anything they can do to convert their capital investment in technology or wherever they can, they can obviously not do in some of the clinical technology area, to OPEX would be a great value for them. That is one. And the second thing is hospitals are also transforming. They are not the same old standalone hospital. They are integrating with other hospital, creating ACOs and a lot of those kinds of clinically integrated network. So they're moving to cloud and then enabling integration through cloud-based technologies would be a great plus for them. So let me switch gear to Oracle with Gopi. So Gopi, I've seen Oracle, sharpen their cloud strategy significantly over the last few years, and they have become very aggressive in the market. So, how do you see that play out over the next few years? And the OCI and DBaaS and some of these technologies as they, become more mainstream.
Great. So it's very interesting that all of us are aware that Oracle's initial strategy was trying to look at their own applications and SaaS and try to see how that can be cloud enabled. and along with the business transformation. But I guess Oracle has caught up on the game with hyperscalers and have realized that it has to go beyond the Oracle applications and move into different aspects of the enterprise that is existing today. And that is precisely what they're doing. And I touched upon the examples of a Zoom or a TikTok or a 8x8 earlier. So I just want to leave the first part, the SaaS part, out for this part of the question, and look at the two elements of OCI as well as DBaaS. So look at it this way: there are a lot of customers who are actually have done a lot of customizations over a period of time in terms of their ERP applications, which is sitting on Oracle, and they are not sure whether they have to transform. So what do? They actually maintain status quo, right? And I think that's the worst mistake that someone can make. I think if you're not ready for changes in terms of business transformation or large scale transformation because of multiple reasons, right? It could be because you don't have the money to do it now, intent to do it now, things are running smoothly, why should I touch it? There's a whole host of excuses that people come with. But it is an imperative that people need to change and adopt some kind of transformation in terms of their applications, databases, or infrastructure. So the first element, that is where, if you look at it, an OCI lift and shift comes into picture. So we have worked very, very collaboratively with Oracle. And I'm telling you this, and we have case studies and examples. In 16 weeks flat, we can take a stack of applications and migrate them to OCI. There's no business transformation, there's no changes, there's no business disruption. It is essentially a technology transformation because if you sit on-prem, you are sitting probably on obsolete hardware. You need to refresh it. You are sitting on security threats that could hit you at any point in time, and you're sitting on high cost of maintenance of those applications. And you actually move these apps into an OCI infrastructure. 16 weeks flat, we can move it. We have seen examples where it can give you a cost benefit of approximately 30%, a higher performance, higher predictability in your entire environment. And that is something better. So this is about moving a lift and shift of the apps into OCI. I would also stretch upon the fact that if you want to move into a database, and Oracle databases inherently has been very powerful. The Exadata boxes are very powerful. So if you move into a clouded customer, and this is something a lot of people are very apprehensive, right? You won't move into a public cloud, and thinking what will happen to my data privacy, and so on and so forth. Here you have a situation where there's a box sitting right in your premise. It is giving all the features of cloud. Why don't you move your data integrated into that infrastructure? So the second part of it is there a possibility for you to start transforming yourself with your databases? A huge amount of databases that is existing, and the value is significant. Let me tell you this: if you're spending for the next 5 years $100 million on the current unlimited license agreements and so on and so forth in Oracle databases, the AMC costs, the hardware upgrades, and so on and so forth, we will guarantee that we can do it at $70 million or less. And that is a value proposition that we have proven, tried, and tested. That is number one. Number two is we have seen the performance improve from 30% to some cases to 75% improvement in performance. And this is unprecedented. And this is the benchmark that we have done as Infosys along with Oracle and published. And the third part is if you have to provision new hardware, the time that it takes is reduced by approximately 85%. And that is because you're moving into a cloud customer DBaaS environment. So look at it, performance, cost, and scale. And you can use that amount that you're saving to actually build on the transformation initiatives, which is more front-ending, if you can actually modernize the databases and infrastructure. The most important point in all this is, and this is something which most of the customers do not understand in the beginning, is this is zero disruption to business. You actually are moving into an environment, into a new DBaaS ecosystem, into Exadata, where you don't touch the code, you don't touch the business process. You're actually probably just changing a pointer, and one fine day when you're live, the business actually sees that your performance is improved. And I have seen batch programs which used to take 20 hours to run, getting completed in 5 or 6 hours. And this is an overnight turnaround that you can see. And this is just an amazing value proposition. And the partnership which obviously Oracle has with NVIDIA in terms of the elevating the stature of the accelerator machine and high performance computing is something which would add into that. So high performance, much lower cost, higher scalability, and zero disruption to business. That is what a transformation into an OCI or a DBAS, a database transformation, is going to give the customer. And we have to ensure that we partner with our customers in moving into this journey.
Thanks, Gopi. I'm sure some of the provider clients who are listening to this, it's like music to their ears. If I can cut off 30% of my cost of infrastructure or licenses around my supply chain, Oracle or other applications, that's going to be a huge plus for them. So let me switch gears and talk about move from strategy and commitments to execution. So Mangesh, when once you were done with the strategy and all the stakeholders said yes, how did you go about building the plan and realistically choosing the right partner for executing this so that we can deliver?
So just hearing to Gopi brought a smile on my face. Everybody says so. Does everybody do so? What is the real thing on the ground versus what you hear from all the partners that they commit to? So the fact is, there is some reality in what Gopi said. It's not completely not possible. Again, I say it is subjective. That was more of an average or a generic statement, but certainly we certainly can. We have achieved some of the goals that which Gopi just spoke about that can be possible. So a couple of things, starting from looking for, first of all, a strategy, right? So to understand that here's the vision, here's the value that we're going to add to it. And once we got to that point, how do we get there? So we were looking at, okay, probably getting into cloud is one of the good options to start getting streamlined, get standardized, make sure you're able to do all the benefits that I spoke about some time back. So we did a very thorough look in terms of the cloud provider first. So to ensure that Oracle is the cloud provider of choice, we went through all the top providers that we were talking through, and some of the factors like our landscape. We have too many applications that are Oracle. We had our databases that run on Oracle databases predominantly. So these were some factors that we were able to make a decision that going to OCI made more sense. Back then the license portability, or you spoke about the ULRs or the unlimited license agreements, were not as portable. So they were not persistent. You could not carry your licenses to any cloud you wanted without having a financial penalty on that. So with all that in mind, we had to come up and decide, okay, what makes most sense for us? And to your point, there were certain SaaS solutions which we're using from Oracle. So it made more sense that you don't take two applications that are going to be in the life cycle of the same process and put them into varied clouds. A multi-cloud strategy is necessary for any organization, but not to the extent that you disrupt your processing and you mess up your performance. So that's how we came up with the cloud as a provider as OCI or Oracle. Then when it came to now implementation partners, so we needed to make sure that there are two things you need. When you were doing, I say that some of these things were at the bleeding edge, where you start, if you don't have the right folks with you, you probably end up doing things in a wrong way, elongating the project more than it's meant for, and then eventually it's costing you more. It becomes disruptive, and then it is just difficult to prove the next time that you can do something good. So with that in mind, we looked at many service providers as well, including Oracle, I guess, in some cases, as a possible service provider. But we looked at some of the experiences, some of the work that was done, and ability to partner with not just us, but with Oracle and others, possible subcontractors. We worked with Infosys in that matter to be able to provide us that service and get us onto the cloud. And the journey wasn't easy. I'm sure most of the folks in the Oracle leadership in Infosys have heard my name, not in good light, because I had to shake the tree everywhere to make sure that folks get to a point where we had to work as a project. It could not have been an Infosys team, an Oracle team, or a TI team. It had to be a project team. So we made sure that we came together, one. Second thing is the relationships that we had with Infosys Infosys had with Oracle, we had with Oracle, had to all be extended to its best capabilities to make sure that we help each other to make it successful, because it was a win for each one of us in this matter. Infosys was doing some of its early stage total migrations of this kind. Oracle had not had too many customers move all over. So we went for SaaS at that point of time. We went with some PaaS services. We went with IaaS services. So we went with a stack of all three. And then there was identity management, data management, encryption. There's so many things. There was some thoughts that you have to have MPLS, you have to have fast connect before you can do this. But we were not ready for it. So how do we work around? All these things were possible only because we had partnerships that were there. Every day was not green talk. It was tough talk many days, but we got through it. I think we came out successful out of it. So selecting the partner, most important is to make sure that you can have a good relationship. They can bring in their A players. They have a good relationship with the cloud provider as well, so they can influence the direction if there are situations where that need to happen. And I think we got it all. And to your point, Amit, you mentioned at the very beginning, the project did get an award not only for TI but also for Infosys, actually, in terms of being one of the best service providers at that point of time. So on the financial services side, and was awarded in the last open world that happened in real open world, not in the virtual world. So that's something which we, I think, look at as an achievement for both of us, and most importantly for a partnership at the three big organizations, maybe TI, Infosys, and Oracle. So I think we all did a great job there.
Hey, thanks, Mangesh. And my personal belief is that the greatest relationships are built with the customers when we went through a difficult road and had a lot of battle wounds together. Nothing is easier. So this brings me down to the last question for both of you, Gopi and Mangesh. Now, Gopi, let me ask you this. You talked about certain commitments that Infosys is ready to make around this specific transformation with OCI. What would you suggest as the way customers can engage with us and get this value proposition realized?
Great. So, Amit, thanks. I just want to, before I get into that, just want to, thank Mangesh for the perspective, because 26 years I spent in Infosys, and it's kind of our motto that once an Infosys client, always an Infosys client. And that is because of the attitude. The attitude that the success of the client is paramount for all of us. And I have lived that value system in my 26 years in Infosys. And I think that is the most important in making any journey successful. And when I come to what is it, this is so exciting. What is it that the client should do? I think for both OCI as well as DBAS, I think it is important. It is quite simple. We can do a 4 to 6 weeks exercise with the customer. We can capture the information that they have at this point of time, and we can give a value proposition, including the cost savings, including the performance improvements based on the current baseline, and we can underwrite it in a contract. And it takes about 4 to 6 weeks because you need to understand the system. What is the kind of agreements that is existing today, and so on and so forth. So it is an assessment that has to be done, and you can give a contract and say that this is what exactly that you spend in both these aspects. And this is I'm saying this so confidently because, as I said earlier, this is not a business transformation exercise where you're going to change the facets of your business. It is predominantly a technology exercise, and I'm very confident that this is something that we can do, and this is in alignment with Oracle and in partnership with Oracle. So, as all of us are aware, that we are a prime partner with Oracle, CSP certified. We have done joint thought papers, published white papers, published joint performance benchmarks on some of these aspects. And as Mangesh rightly pointed out, we are one of the top award winners in Oracle Open World in other forums along with our customers because of the strength of our execution and taking customers through an end-to-end journey. And that is something which we are very proud of. And what we say, we do. And that is something that we are extremely proud of. Finally, as a closing remark, I should say that any of the customers, if you have an Oracle ERP landscape which is on-prem, or large or state of Oracle on databases, you should seriously look at transforming yourself, part of transforming yourself, either in terms of an entire business transformation or a technology transformation. And Infosys will be there with you as a trusted partner to handhold you through that journey with the commitments that we will adhere to as we have always done. So I will wind up with that, and I would like to thank Mangesh for excellent perspective, and he's really been a great support to Infosys over the years and a great client for us. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Mangesh. Any final thought? Any advice you would like to give specifically to the hospital sector? I know last time we spoke, you mentioned that you have some experience in the hospital side also. So, any quick advice for people embarking on this journey?
Yes, the healthcare is something which is near and dear in terms of how we and how I look at it from how it is distributed today, and especially if you come to the United States and the disparity of how it is received by privileged and underprivileged is there, and we need to make sure that we fill that gap somewhere. And you guys are doing more work than I can think of. So certainly, but back to the topic, and I think two things we'll say is I don't regret a day that the journey we had to move to the cloud. We think so far we've done great. But one thing I'll say everybody too is there is not just moving to the cloud is not a one-time thing. Once you go there, you have to make sure you make the best of what you can get out of that. So, for example, over the years, we've not in the last year or 2 years, we've not we've upgraded our platforms, right? So we moved from the X8 data, for example, we moved from X6 to X8, but it gave us a reduction, increase in performance, reduction in utilization. We put some scripts that can allow us to really use and bring down our systems to save on the compute. So optimization of how we utilize our servers. And also, we made sure that we have the ability to quickly go to market in terms of when time comes to spin off or spin down environments. So we've been doing many of these things, and I think people should seriously think about. Organizations should seriously think. It certainly has a cost benefit, but it has non-tangibles which will take much further, get you more competitive. So it is important to look at that point of view as well. And as we go, there are certainly some older applications now. If you think about the whole thing, with integration with telehealth is becoming very important for the healthcare services. How do you take that and integrate with your EMRs? How do you make it into the supply chain of the pharmaceuticals? How do you make sure that you get all of this together? And how do you make it more reachable? How do you get yourself out there? Having on-prem will not allow you to scale that fast. Getting on cloud, using cloud-native tools will allow you to scale. So look at those points of views as well. And I'll say, if you have something which is dated, which needs to be modernized, and before you can jump in, cloud customer, which we're looking at as well, which Gopi did speak about a couple of times. I look at it as almost like you create a sandbox in which you get everything within your firewall. Once you get ready, you can jump onto the public cloud, use that as a stepping stone, and then you can use that. Certainly there is some elasticity. This is a point of view, but elasticity constraints that will come in your on-prem and trying to have a private cloud and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I think it's a journey. You have to take the first step. That momentum is needed, and then inertia builds, and then you can slide through. So I'll say, everybody, just be open, think about it, look at where the world is going, look at where the technology is going. Gopi, it is a technology transformation, but the business does certainly benefit from it. So it is eventually a win-win for the entire organization. So I'll keep it at that, and I'll thank you guys for having me here and letting me speak my mind.
Hey, Mangesh and Gopi, thank you very much for spending time with me on this. Feel free to reach out to us and schedule any discussions you would like us to have with you. Thank you very much.